can you learn from a man that has a $6.3 million property portfolio, that has $270,000 of income, and is at a 50% loan to value ratio? I reckon quite a lot. Not only can you learn from him, this man has been learning from other people. He runs Pizza and Property. His name's Todd Sloan. He is the host of Pizza and Property podcast and an all-round bloody great guy, to be honest. We go through a whole heap. We talk about how he got his portfolio started, how he's continued to scale this. And he hasn't even, we talk about this whole unlimited borrowing capacity thing with trust. And he doesn't even, the last purchase he bought, the last one property is in a trust. So he hasn't come from wealth. He's created this. He's let time and leverage do its thing. And there's a lot of insights that you guys can gain from this. Anyone that's starting out in their property portfolio journey, I think you're going to get a little bit of wisdom in this. And people that are quite far along the journey can start to see how things will start to shape out as well. Hey everyone, my name is Joe Tucker, and together with Jeff Miles, we created Oz Property Investors. It's Australia's largest property investment community. We've got 3,000 members. Each week we interview top property experts, and Todd Sloan is one such expert. Let's dive into this lesson and let's all learn. Let's get on it.
When you started off, what particular strategy did you use? Was there even a strategy? Because I know you bought the unit, and then was it anything in particular you were aiming to buy? Like, what did that, because you bought the unit, but was there a strategy with that? Was it a reno? Was it literally, it was about a girl from memory?
So I don't really look at that as the start. Like, it technically is because it's a purchase of a property, but you're right. It was actually impressing a girl. Like, I was an idiot. I was 21 years old. Like, it was just, I always fantasized about living in this particular building, so much so that, like, I would be on drunken nights out when I was like 18, 19 years old, and I would actually be like, see you guys, I'm going home, and I'd pretend to walk into this because it was a hotel as well. And it was like a laugh. I swear there's probably a little bit of like serendipitous, like, I don't know, laws of attraction that came to meet with that, because then I did end up living in that building for 7 years and owning it for almost 10. I rented out for about 3. And that's technically the first purchase, but it's not the first investment. Like, the first investment, that was the one that I got out regional. And it wasn't because I wanted to do it. It was because I was earning hardly anything. And that was my option. It was basically, don't invest or invest out here and get something you can add value to. So as far as strategy, value add and high yield, simply because I didn't have much money. It was as simple as that.
Yeah, well, because this is the thing, when you are going out to more of these high yielding regional areas, you kind of understand, like, I don't know if you understood at the time, but you saw that you didn't actually get the capital growth that you needed to push on the portfolio. So, like, if you are going out to these super high cash flow areas, and like, it has to be done because you can't afford, and that's absolutely fine, right? The goal here is to buy the best property in the best location at the best price for your buyer brief, for what you specifically need. And sometimes I need a 7% yield, but I can't buy property. Well, what are you going to do? Not buy property? Or are you going to go find something that has a 7% yield, but you utilize the strategy to then build the equity organically into it, so that, okay, this market's not going to grow. I imagine you kind of want it to grow, but I don't see it growing as much as it could. Crazy as, you were buying in anywhere in South Australia at the time, that would have gone crazier. But yeah, you can then choose the force the value through that renovation, subdivision, granny flat, development, or whatever it was. I think it was a renovation, was it? What did it look like, that first one?
That first one was a reno. That first one was a house that we still don't know how old it was, because it got trucked in and then just like dropped. No services, no power, no water, no sewer, no anything. So it was kind of my introduction to not developing, but kind of getting a little taste of like all this kind of stuff. And I spent $30,000 or something on it. And I got it for a song. Like, out there, it's in like Port Pirie, and Port Pirie is basically, yeah, like, well, the median house price then was like 230 something. So it was like, it was already so low. And then I ended up picking this up for, I think, $62,000. And then got it revalued for like 125. So we're not talking big dollars, but it was like, And this is the thing that I think I want everyone to really take away with this is like, it was enough to get to the next one. Like, don't look at like a profit and go, oh, but it's not exactly 20%. That's what everyone says I need to hit, or it's not like $500,000. That's what I really. It's like, does it move you forward? And then if that next one that you choose, does that move you forward? And if you just keep with this mindset, before you know it, like a few years pass, you look back and you're like, holy crap, like I've moved forward quite a lot. Whereas before, I used to just have this analysis paralysis and nothing was ever quite good enough. And I'd sit on the fence. I wouldn't make decisions. And this was just this time of just jump in, just make it happen. And then when we did.
Well, I'm more interested in the beginner, Todd. When you started out, what was the light bulb, like a guess that was like, oh shit, you can do this, and this is how you do it, and this is what it looks like one of the core guests that you got that was of value and what you learned from them. And then I would love to hear what you've recently learned that was like, oh wow, okay, like, because you hear the same. It is hard sometimes when you're creating content like in the property space, because you hear a lot of the same thing over and over again. If I hear the word unlimited borrowing capacity one more time, I'm going to lose my shit. But apparently you can do unlimited borrowing capacity if people know. But there are points where you're just like, whoa, let's stop and pause. I actually need to think this through. So from an old perspective, what are some of your older guests that gave you some leg up?
I think one of the first, and this is kind of a property investing thing and kind of not at the same time. And when I say that, I mean, it's more so for people like myself that are a bit more active with it. So if you're a bit more of a passive investor and you just want to kind of buy and walk away, it's not as applicable, but it's like, it kind of boils down to one of those sayings of don't be upset with the results you didn't get from the work that you didn't do. And he kind of went on to say, I genuinely can't remember. I'm trying to think of whose name it was, like who actually said it. But then they went on to basically talk about if you want to create $1 million worth of equity, like have you created $1 million worth of value? And that's one of the things that really got me to thinking of how can I actually maximize that value creation? What are the things? And it's one of the things that got me like really obsessed with budget controls, with understanding that data of the top end and the bottom end when it comes to looking at projects. Because when I was an agent, that was something I used to see people mess up all the time. They'd be like, yeah, it's a renovator. It's like, just because it's a renovator doesn't mean you can actually make money out of renovating it, or it doesn't mean you can make money out of renovating it and holding it to grow your portfolio. Like the numbers actually need to add up. And a lot of that comes from the amount of value that you can actually add to the property. So that was probably a big one. Recently, I'm going to think about this. Because like there's so many. If I'm trying to actually like tier it as to one of the best, like Jeremy's always got light bulb moments. Like that guy is just like a bucket of wisdom walking around, and it just spills out of him. It's like, what bit of wisdom just fell out there? Just catch that, guys. But I think one of the things that he talks about is probably like the way debt recycling actually works. So I don't know why, but it's fundamentally simple. But for some reason, it is complex. Like you have no idea how many times, like we made an episode on it, that we wrote it on the whiteboard. Jeremy and I were doing this for probably 2 hours beforehand, using magnets, moving stuff around, going this and that, until it was like, okay, I get it now. And like debt recycling, if you've got a PPR, like, and you'd know about this, Jeff, you'd be all over from like the broking side of things. Like, it's like, it makes total sense, man. Like it really, really does. But you need to wrap your head around it. And I think now that I've got my head around it, I'm like, why haven't I been doing this for so much longer? And I think that's probably one of the more recent ones that was a big like aha moment that, yeah, I should have had earlier.
Yeah. I think listening to your podcast, Toddy, probably the biggest things I get from it is everyone has their own path to the place that they're going. It's just and you need to pick and any investor out listening to us now, whether you're starting off as a young 18-year-old, maybe you got a few pimples, hopefully not by the time you get to 18, or whether you're 50 and you haven't bought your first property, it's like, okay, well, great. What are the things? What are the next steps I need to take? because there's no point looking back in the rear vision mirror too much. Like maybe consider the things that have gotten to you where you are, but think of, okay, what are the next 3 steps you need to take to make it happen? And whether that's, as you said, at the end of each of your podcasts, you say, what are the people who take their earbuds out? What action they need to take next? It's that sort of simpling it down rather than trying to middle curving it and overthinking it, and then which all of us have done. But that's my biggest insight from you. It's like there's no point comparing to somebody with 130 properties if you haven't got that. You need to compare yourself to yourself where you were a couple of years ago, and just keep taking action.
One thing that I remember when I was listening to podcasts and stuff, it's like, it's all right for you, Mr. $6 million portfolio. But I made this website out of AI to show people the difference between what compound interest can do for you in property investing, and what one investment property could actually do for you. If you had $150,000 deposit, you bought a $600,000 property that had a compound growth of 7% over 30 years, just from a capital growth perspective of like what one property could do to change your life. Because this is the crazy thing. So property in Australia has grown 7.2% on average over the past 30 years. So let's even drop the rate down to 6%. So just so we can even say, well, look, we're not going to do the same as what we've done for the last 30 years compounded. But if you look at a $600,000 purchase, in 10 years' time, that's $1 million. So 600,000 has gone to $1 million in just 10 years. Think about yourself 10 years ago. Like if you bought a property 10 years ago for 600,000, $1 million. In 20 years, that property is now $1.92 million. And in 30 years, that is $3,446,000. If we include debt and you're on principal and interest, you can literally the debt's paid off in 30 years, actually. It'll pay itself off in 30 years. You add more money to it. But like, that's incredible. In 10 years' time, you could have a property that's paid itself off. If you go ahead and buy 2, just add 1 more property. Add it to use $100,000 of its own equity to then continue, then sell that next debt property down in 20 years' time, and you then can pay down the debt on the other one and then have, $2 million worth of equity. Like, you don't have to go for these silly numbers and start building $6 million property portfolios. Like, you just take a little bit of the money that you're saving, because one of the things that I'm seeing out there in Australia right now is, I don't know what the word is, but it's, I can't achieve that. I don't give a shit anymore. I'm just going to spend my money. I'm just going to live, because there's no way I can buy a house in Sydney. There's no way I can buy a house in Brisbane. There's no way I can buy a house for myself in Melbourne. And I don't know. Are you guys seeing this out there? Like, where people are like, screw it. I'm just going to spend all my salary. I make 150 grand.
That's what the average person thinks. But so I'd love to hear Todd answer, and then we'll throw the first sponsor, because otherwise what do you reckon? What are you seeing, Todd?
I am obsessed with getting younger people on the show to try and disprove this as much as possible. I've got a young lad coming on in a couple of weeks' time. What was he, 21 years old, two rental properties already, and renting them out for phenomenal money. Got a few other sort of like mid-20s, early 20s, because it's not true. It's like the market's between your ears. And I think there's a few very I don't ever name and shame anyone, but have you guys seen that DOAC debate on and it was Daniel Presley and that Gary's economics dude?
What channel is this on? SBS or ABC? Like what?
No, YouTube, Grandpa. Jesus.
I watch YouTube, but mate, I only watch either property or business sort of stuff.
I got you, man. All right,
exactly what it was.
It's the diary of the CEO. This it's Gary's economics, and at first when I started watching him, and I saw him and Piers Morgan and I was like, cool, this guy's pretty switched on. This is good. And then the more I started listening to his message is basically, you're screwed and there's nothing you can do about it. And it's not your fault. Everyone else's fault, but there's nothing you can do about it. You're screwed. but it's not your fault. It's okay. And it's like, that is so dangerous, because I think that it takes away your agency, and it takes away that control that you do actually have. And it gives you sympathy. It gives you empathy to a certain extent if he really believes what he's saying, but it doesn't give you control and agency, which I think is one of the most powerful things we all have, especially in this country. And it's that kind of narrative that I absolutely want to just dispel, because not only is it not true, but it's dangerous. You look back on 30 years time, if you don't make those choices now, like, it always gets me, like, economists are never held to account. Like, if us three right now say, like, you will make X amount of dollars per year, like, we can't do that, okay? Because it's not, you don't know 100%. You can go, hey, the likelihood is like really great here and this and that and that. Because that is the truth of it. There's no guarantees. But then you've got economists that will be like, the market is going to crash like 50%, right? And it's that people sell their houses, or people don't buy houses because of this. What is the opportunity cost? What is the tens, hundreds of millions of dollars people have lost by listening to people like this? That's why I think the narrative needs to switch. What I'm talking about is the absolute start. You start with nothing. So then you'd save your money. Make sure that you stay away from BNPL. Anything that's buy now, pay later, do not do it. It's one of the fastest growing industries, and it's absolutely killing it. Like, you can now buy now, pay later Uber. If you ever think that's a good idea, slap yourself in the face, because it's not. Like, it's just, go make a sandwich. Like, there's so many better things you can be doing with your money. The other thing I'd be doing is exactly what I did do in my 30s, which I should have done in my 20s. I moved back in with my parents. Now, if you don't have that option, maybe you've got a bad relationship with your parents, maybe you don't have parents, whatever it is, go into a rooming house, whatever, like share, not like a rooming house is in like the 9 rooms or whatever.
Shared accommodation.
Share with friends. Like, lower the hell out of your expenses. If you want one of the simplest ways to absolutely like skyrocket your borrowing capacity, move back home. Like, it's just, it is night and day what you can actually borrow when you move back home. I wouldn't go and buy out a new car. Like, I still drive, like, we can more than afford whatever we want, actually, car-wise. I still drive a $20,000 LDV. And the only reason I even got that is because I got a bad back, and it was the highest car I could get, so I could get Fred in and out of it without bending my back. Like, I'm going to keep doing that until we reach the goal, because the goal right now, as much as we're at around that 6 mil, that's not the goal. Like, the goal is much bigger than that. And it's about the double on the double. That's when it's like, okay, cool. We're proper comfortable now. Then go and buy whatever you want to car and all the rest of it. But my whole point is sacrifice mode, because sacrifice is a slingshot. The harder you pull back on it, the harder it is. But the further it's going to fling you forward when you let go. That's what I'd be doing when I'm a young person, because right now, like, the average house price to the average wage is out of whack. Okay. Again, normal numbers, like, no one can dispute that. Back in the 50s, it was something like 3.5 times the average wage bought the average house. Now it's something like 9 to 12, depending on what state you live in. Okay. So that's different. We can complain about that and go, that's not fair, because to a certain extent, it's not fair. Or we can go, okay, well, these are the rules now, because there's also a ton of other things that we can do that our parents and grandparents never could do. Like, that you think about the freedoms, the technologies, the everything else we do have available. To me, it's worth the trade-off. I don't want to be around in the 50s. That would have sucked. Like, it's about having like, my internet doesn't even work now. Imagine what it would have been like in the 50s.
Man, Todd, I'm absolutely picking up what you're putting down. Like, it's that simple and boring, inverted commas. I don't think it's boring at all. I think it's absolutely it's the type of thing that a lot of people need to sort of consider. I'm not saying you have to live the way your life. You can't necessarily do everything that Todd's saying, but you have to say, well, choose your hard, as you say. Like, hard now, or do you want hard in 10 or 15 years?
That's where it comes down to the intensity of really how much you're wanting to do. Because if you're wanting to build like a $5, $10, $20 million, like, you're really wanting to scale something and you've got more of a modest income, you got to pull back on that sacrifice slingshot. But if you're wanting to do like what Joe was pointing out before, like, buy a property, buy like 1 or 2 properties, you have to pull back that hard. There's only a little bit there. So it's also just about aligning the goals and on what you want, because maybe you're more like my dad and you're happy with a meal at the
West End
Woodcroft
beer.
Tavern. Yeah, West End draft. Like, and if that's what makes you happy, it makes you happy.